everyone, hope you're doing great. Welcome back to my channel. If you have not already, please subscribe down below for more videos. Mostly focusing on what I learn in my devotions and books I read and things like that. So I'm going to do my first book review today, and I just recently finished Authentic Beauty by Leslie Ludy. I actually bought this book a few years ago, and it's taken me a few years to read. Not because it was boring, actually was not, but just because the busyness of life catches up with me and I never really focus myself to sit down and read. I love the way Leslie Ludy writes. It's like you're sitting in a coffee shop and she's sitting right across from you talking directly to you. I love books like that because they seem more personal and they're books that I like to dive into. So I'm going to go chapter by chapter in this book. I went through the summaries of the chapter and I wrote down things that I got from each chapter in this book. I really hope you enjoy this video. So first of all, Leslie Ludy really focuses on making Christ your true prince. I know many times as girls, especially if you're single, I'm single, but I know many times as girls we focus on our Prince Charming. You know the song from the Disney movie Sleeping Beauty, Someday My Prince Will Come, and we all dream of that Prince Charming coming into our lives. I admit, I dream of it. I want to get married someday. I want my prince to come into my life. But the prince that is most important is the Prince of Peace. Jesus Christ is what we need to really focus on. And that's what this book is really about, is focusing more on Christ instead of more on that earthly prince that may or may not come into our lives. So there's a huge difference between saying you know Jesus Christ and actually experiencing him. You can say, yeah, I know Jesus, but are you really experiencing him? Are you making him your prince? Are you making him your hero? Are you focusing on him in your everyday life? I really like the quote she said in chapter 3. True purity is complete set apartness for our heavenly prince. It comes only when we fall into the loving arms of Jesus Christ. Surrender ourselves fully to him and allow him to tenderly shape us into his lily whiteness. We really need to focus on letting Christ shape us instead of shaping ourselves. And I'm going to tell you later on about how we let Christ shape us. Now, Jesus really longs to meet us, and this is a lesson that I've really had to learn, is to spend time with God. There were many times that I would make a New Year's resolution and say, this year I'm going to spend more time with God. And it wasn't until last year I got completely serious about it. Jesus wants us to come to him every day and spend time with him through reading his word and praying to him. And again, I'll share with you later on some things that you can do to really focus on your quiet time and spending time with God. Chapter 5 talks about living differently than the world. I know many times growing up, I've always been known as the weird one, or the goody two-shoes, or the brown noser. And that's not because I do want to please people. I'm very much a people pleaser. But I mostly want to please God because I know my actions reflect who God is, or I know that my actions reflect whether or not I truly know God in my life. Yes, he may get made fun of for living differently, but in the end, it's worth it if we live differently than the world. I really like the quote she said in chapter 6. Girlish passion for Mr. Right can be poison or it can be prize. Focus on Jesus. Don't focus so much on Mr. Right. Fulfill your craving through Jesus. Look to him to satisfy you. I know many times we look to people, our friends, our relationships to satisfy us. I admit I'm guilty of this. We need to really learn to focus on Jesus every day. And again, I'm not perfect at this. I haven't perfected this. It's something that I'm constantly working on in my own life. Chapter 7 talks about making Jesus first and giving him ownership and guarding your heart. I know many times I've given my heart away to the wrong guy. But we really need to give our heart to Christ. Our heart belongs to God, not to the next guy that comes along. I really liked what she said on page 145. A lily does not resemble or imitate the thorns around her. She is focused on being who she was created to be, completely set apart for her heroic lover. I wrote down under this, be watchful for the maneuverings of Satan. Because Satan will come in and he'll want to devour you and want to draw you away from Christ. He will do anything to destroy you and destroy that relationship you have with God. Don't let the enemy destroy you. Put on the armor of God. Now, I really loved the quote in chapter 9 that she talked about our earthly Prince Charming. Yes, she goes into our earthly Prince Charming, into looking for the type of man we need to have in our life. And this has been a goal of mine since I was in college. When I first heard it from a college professor, was that I need to find someone that loves God more than me. She put it this way: earthly Prince Charmings are men who reflect Jesus. If you are looking for someone or want to get married someday, look for someone who reflects Christ. Look for someone that will draw you closer to Him every day. Look for someone that loves God, because ultimately, that's the most important thing. Now, in this book, there's several sections that her husband, Eric Ludy, wrote called The Making of Warriors. And several lessons that he wrote to ladies. And my favorite one was in chapter 10, talking about shaping men in your life into Christian-built warriors by, first of all, be an inspiration to him. Inspire him to protect. Number 2, talk to him. Help him understand you. Tell him how you feel. Tell him, let's do this. Number 3, be rescuable. And this is the part I really liked. Let him be a gentleman, girls. I will never forget the time I went on a date with a guy. We actually went to my school's junior senior. And he was the sweetest guy. But he borrowed his mom's car. He cleaned it up. He came to my house. He picked me up. He put a corsage on my wrist. He opened my car door for me. And I will never forget the time when we got to the place. I just popped open the door and got out because I'd never really been on a date with a guy before. And one of my teachers called me over to her. She's like, Rebecca, next time, let him open the door for you when you get out. And this guy told me later on that he wanted to open the door for me when I got out. So when we went to our next destination, I let him do that. He made sure my glass was filled with tea. He made sure that I had everything I wanted. He pulled my chair out for me. He opened the door. And it was the sweetest time with someone that I've had. And let a guy be a gentleman. Even if it's a complete stranger and you're going to the store and a guy wants to open the door for you, let him and tell him thank you. And also encourage him. Encourage him to be more like Christ every day. Chapter 11 is the part that I talked about earlier about learning more about God. Is that there is always more to learn about God. Let Christ be the center of your life. The answer to every single issue is found through Jesus in the Bible. And what I do when I do my Bible time, and Leslie Ludy even talked about doing this, is journal. And I have my journal, and I do my Bible time. I write down what I'm reading. I write down my thoughts about the passage. I write down things about God. I write down what the Lord wants to teach me through that passage. And then I also have been writing my prayers out to God. I know if I sit there and say my prayers, my mind tends to wander. And so if I sit and write my prayers out to God, that really helps me. And also read Christian literature. Read missionary biographies. We read biographies about pastors. Read books like this. Although I do have to say, be cautious about the Christian books you read, because some of them don't always go by scripture. Be very discerning about the books you read. Make sure it lines up with God's words. We all want to have the imprint of Christ in your life and let others see Jesus through you. They should know that Jesus is in your life. And let Christ shape you into who He wants to be. Don't try and shape yourself. I really love the quote at the end of the book that Amy Carmichael, that Leslie Ludy wrote down. A quote by Amy Carmichael. Trust me, my child, he says. Trust me with a fuller abandon than you ever have before. Trust me as minute succeeds minute every day of your life, for as long as you live. And if you become conscious of anything hindering our relationship, do not hurt me by turning away from me. Draw all the closer to me. Come, run to me. Allow me to hide you, to protect you, even from yourself. Tell me your deepest cares, your every trouble. Trust me to keep my hand upon you. I will never leave you. I will shape you, mold you, and perfect you. Do not fear, O child of my love. Do not fear, I love you. And Amy Carmichael wrote that as something as God is telling her. I highly recommend this book. I recommend getting it. I give it 5 stars. Hopefully I'll stick and put 5 stars down below, down here somehow. Give this book 5 stars. I highly recommend you go out, buy this book, and read it. So you can get it on Amazon. I found mine at Lifeway. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. I'll link the Amazon link down below. But go get this book and read it. It will change your life. I hope you'll have a great night. And I will be doing, my next book review is going to be on Sister Friends by Francine Taylor. My goal is to upload videos every Wednesday on this channel. And so I hope y'all have a great night. And I'll talk to y'all later.